A tale as old as time, a glacier into the Atlantic. Find out the details on this week's episode of the IndyCar Report podcast. Episode 298 of the IndyCar Report podcast. We're back. We have Atlantic happenings. We have expansion happenings. We have a 24-year-old being hired into a senior position. We have a lot happening, don't we, Ryan?
Yeah, choices being made.
Very difficult decisions. Interesting decisions. Historic decisions.
I hate that. We'll see, man.
Malicious decisions.
I'm trying to not just start firing thoughts out there, so that's why I'm just like, I'll allow us to actually get into a segment.
Fighting the intrusive thoughts.
24/7, dude.
Speaking of 24s, that's the age of Evansville's new GM. That is more of a tongue twister than you would think on the surface. Or maybe I've just been hit in the head too many times. Either way, Bryson Moore is now the GM of the Evansville Otters. He is 24 and will oversee the day-to-day operations of the team, both on and away from the field. He started with the team with a group sales internship, then became the assistant director of ops in 22, director of ops and food beverages next, the assistant GM, and now GM proper. So I think it's safe to say he's the youngest GM in baseball, and that this is just kind of interesting for Evansville to go this route.
Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and just be like, oh, he's young. It's a disaster.
Because we always do campaign for younger guys to be put in serious positions. We say this a lot. So I am happy to see that. And like, if anybody else had that resume, we'd probably be like, yeah, I mean, 4 years in an organization, you probably know it fairly well. And going from an internship to a seemingly decent position for authority-wise, I mean, assistant director of operations, it sounds like a decent position at least. I'm not sure exactly how the Evansville organization runs. Maybe it's a nothing position with a good title. But the fact that you keep going up the chain every year you're there does imply to me that, hey, that the command structure seems to like the kid at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that complicates a little bit is the fact that GM varies team to team. Like some GMs are handling everything, including baseball. Some GMs are literally just running the day-to-day, putting people in place, sort of managing the bigger issues that might come up. I feel like there's probably something in between that's cutting edge analysis there. I don't want to be too down on this. My issue in life is the fact that Evansville isn't really known for being, the smoothest operating front office as is.
Yeah.
So bringing in somebody who doesn't really have experience running a whole office is a little bit my head scratcher, but I don't know. Like, what was their attendance again last year? Hanging on the 2,000 line. I don't know how we felt about that. I know we just talked about whether or not we believe that or not. Now I don't remember how we felt, but I don't want to just, I'm trying to avoid being too critical here, but it is like, that's a gamble, man.
That's the thing. Like, it does seem kind of odd that in the course of like 4 years, you go from a group sales intern to GM.
Yes.
That's the thing for me. And like, it definitely feels like they were moving around because he went, sales to operations to food and beverage to then assistant GM. So it feels like they were trying to get him the sampler pattern of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
it's because he's just that gifted. Like, and they were like, all right, what do we need to do to get this guy an opportunity to take charge of shit? But
in high school, he was in the National Honor Society, and he was dean solicited at Indiana University.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to point out. We're not asking for GPAs here, boys.
Gonna say,
ain't nobody care.
It's weird. We have like a whole paragraph dedicated to what he did in high school, but I'm also like, he was in high school 6 years ago too. So like,
Yeah, I don't know about it. Yeah. Don't promote that. Like, sorry, I'm just like, what are we doing?
It does kind of,
feels potentially desperate. Sorry.
It does feel desperate. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, do we know what the conditions were from which the last GM left under?
Not really.
Okay,
Hmm.
because that would tell me a lot.
Yeah. That's what I got on that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm happy to see younger people getting opportunities.
Agreed.
Obviously,
I'm hoping he does well. I want to be wrong for doubting this.
there's something about it that doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah, and I think like we've been around enough that when we see something that seems off, like we can kind of pick it out, even if we don't have, how often are we on something just because it's not the typical order of things, and like we can kind of sniff that out. It fits into that category.
Yeah, like it has to pass the sniff test.
Yes.
And also, like, the other thing I think is he working cheaper than the other candidates were?
Yeah, that's my other thought. Yeah.
Yeah, like, because it's an older ballpark. You've been there 30 years. We've seen what the attendance number was without seeing like the years out number, which I suppose I could pull that sheet back up again. But I don't know if they've been dropping in attendance, staying steadily. I mean, if you assume your expenses are going to rise soon, then hey, it would be nice to not be able to, or not have to rather, pay your front office positions that much money.
Yes. And it seems to be a trend this week is teams maybe taking a cheaper option.
I will say here, just like kind of scrolling through, it does seem like a lot of people involved around the whole Evansville area and with the team, they all seem happy that he's getting the opportunity. But that being said, I mean, that doesn't always say that much, right?
Right. Sorry, I'm trying to get more of an opinion on this. Just my opinion isn't.
I hate to draw the immediate comparison to Brady, but I mean, like, there is something there, right? Salzburg being a younger guy when he took over in Gastonia, but we obviously know what the situation was with Gastonia when he came in there. So, like, I don't want to say it's a one-for-one type thing, both different people, and I'm sure different club building styles. And also, I imagine behind the scenes, things are a little bit different.
I mean, it seems genuinely like people are excited about it. So, I don't know. Maybe he could be a wonder kid. Like,
could be. Because, I mean, like, I know we said we're not going to put too much stock.
The people who will comment on Facebook, honestly, will probably have the more critical feel for how it is. And they seem fairly happy with the move, which is interesting. I mean, across the board, I just did a quick count. It doesn't look like any comments have been deleted.
Facebook comments are something else.
Yeah, it's a hellscape. As somebody who works in them professionally, it makes me want to die, but it's fine.
So, we have any other thoughts on Evansville?
No, hope for the best for it. I'm mildly more optimistic than I was a few minutes ago, but it's still sort of it makes me nervous.
I think that's a fair point. I was just going to say, in summary, the rapid promotion is encouraging. The general fan reaction seems encouraging. The general reaction from people that are close to the organization seems encouraging. However, the overall inexperience and topped with the overall age factor here does raise some red flags. If not for the hire, but for the organization as well.
This could be a train wreck for sure, but we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully it isn't.
It sounds like he's good around the ballpark and fans like him, which ain't nothing.
Certainly isn't. So we'll go a little bit more westerly to talk a little expansion possibility in Blaine, Minnesota. I'm almost certain that this would be American Association territory. I don't think anybody else would have any reasonable claim to this. And in Blaine, Minnesota, is currently moving forward with a redevelopment plan that will include a 50,000 seat stadium, of which roughly 3,000 of them would be fixed seating. There's also a public food hall, and there's going to be about 1,700 parking spaces too. It is known as the 105th Street or 105th Avenue rather redevelopment plan. Residents all seem to be in favor of this. It'll be a 20,000 square foot redevelopment zone. You'll have your typical restaurants and hotels and indoor recreation center, some other things like that. I didn't really see a timeline out there for this thing, but it
Yeah,
has
that
been
was
the
my
works.
thing.
Yeah, it has been in the works for about 2 years now. So it seems like it's going through the approvals, and it does have a local government support as well, which is a huge thing. Obviously, the American Association lost a team in Minnesota when the Saints left, so they would almost certainly be eager to get back into that market.
Yeah, I'm just trying to take a look. There's a lot of times we like to be like, oh, future indie ball team, but like, who else is up there? Northwoods League up there could hop in there. Successful league with other teams in Minnesota.
I don't know. There seems to be like some sort of Top Golf type setup in here too, which screams American Association.
Yeah, that's fair.
Plus 5,000 is a lot for a Northwoods League team, no?
No, that's true. I feel like the ones who play in stadiums that large weren't necessarily built for the Northwoods League, so that's a fair point.
More importantly,
yeah,
too,
I do think. What are the odds too? The American Association hasn't been in there talking to them. You know,
I think pretty
Just-
damn high because
Yeah.
we're listed on the One Community website, meaning the government website. When you go to slide 2 on the concept plan, the last bullet point is hometown professional baseball team associated with MLB Partner League.
and there you go on that.
So that pretty much puts a lockdown on that move. So
Yeah, no big Frontier League move. I mean, they don't really care about it. Just that they pour drink directly in the mic. I mean, look, they had no hesitation going all the way down to Mississippi, so Minnesota isn't really that far out of their coverage.
you know,
I hate to say it, but like the Frontier League is so unpredictable that I'm kind of like, well, maybe.
they very much have cut the brake lines
Yeah,
type
I
energy.
think it's rolling where it's going to roll.
As far as Blaine goes, though, give me further thoughts on Blaine.
And not really.
I mean, they're getting a
Not
nice
any time
market
frame
back.
makes me uncomfortable. So I'm like, okay.
Fair. I mean, that's a fair point. I do think getting back to that Minneapolis market, though, is nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Plus, it's a nice stopgap there for the Fargos and all that.
And that's an area too that understands the benefit of indie ball too. So like they'll be open to it.
That is a good point as well. One I hadn't totally considered there. Would that make it easier to do of that north-south split again?
Probably. And then you can do like a really solid northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest type of thing eventually.
See, here's the thing. Like, I assume you want to keep your Chicago area clustered together because those 5 make the most sense there. So you got to go with them. You got 12 teams in total. If you were to put Blaine there, your Dakota teams plus your Winnipeg teams plus Cleburne always throws a wrench in everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Because the thing is, like, you look at the map and it's really not that bad when everything's all centralized.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a way to, again, there's always a way to assemble your travel schedules where it takes a bit of the weight off. Making sure, you have certain, like basically combining things for road trip purposes. Like,
True. But, to my point, I guess, is there's clusters in the American Association, and you could really make decent clusters if they had a couple more teams, but also it's like you have to have a plan for it.
yeah, my problem here is it's tough to even
Discuss it when there's no
without-
timeline.
Right, and I'm trying to stay off the slippery slope for us, which is expansion talk, because it will never come back. This episode won't make it.
This episode already isn't going to make it.
I know, dude. We're barely getting there. We might die. Which, I mean, sure.
I mean, it's probably for the best. So, yes, Blaine at some point will likely come into the American Association's fold. It's just a matter of when. I would say we're at least 3 years off on this.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, the fact they haven't even started talking about dates and there's not even like a overly optimistic drawing or mock-up of what things could look like. Yeah.
I mean, they have the concept art on the government site, but I mean, that's concept art. So, like,
Fair. Yeah.
it just seems like it's a
I
matter
don't go
of
to government sites. I don't believe in it.
Blaine will eventually come into the fold. It's an interesting market. Hopefully, it'll be a good ad. We're talking Atlantic League the rest of the way home. So if you're not interested in that league, we'll see you next week.
That's fair.
Going to staff hirings in the Atlantic League now, we have a renewal and a new. I guess we'll go renewal first. Mark Midikazi is back for 2025 in Staten Island. Improved the team by 6 games last year. Solid first half, lagged off in the second half. 55 wins, 69 losses. Nice. And finished 4th in the North. Year 2 for him, so some stability coming in. That's probably a solid. I'm not sure how much we want to talk about this particular hiring, because I imagine it's going to be a lot of like what he did last year, and we have a whole Atlantic League review to talk about that. But general thoughts, I guess.
I mean, my thoughts would be there were definitely flashes of the potential for Staten Island last year. I mean, that's 3 years of 3 managers with flashes of potential sort of throughout each. More so though in last year. So I think he did a good job sort of assembling sort of the crew he wanted, but then the wheels just kind of fell off, and that's something that Mark's been dealing with. Just second half issues in basically every season. I know he won the second half to make the playoffs in 2021, but it wasn't like an overly knockout effort. Like that wasn't like when Gastonia was good or anything like that.
It wasn't a New England effort.
Yeah, well, I just don't think there's still a lot to prove there. But I do think from the Staten Island perspective, that is a very good, it's a good re-sign. You need some consistency. You cannot have a 4th manager in your first 4 years. And Mark is experienced, he knows what he's doing, and Mark deserves an opportunity to not, I mean, if you forget, he went to Charleston for their first year, moved on to the Genomes after that, then went to Spire City after that, then went to Staten Island after that. So I'm glad that let him get settled in and see what happens here a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, which in fairness, if they would have got a 4th manager in 4 years, they would have been demoted to the Pioneer League. But I do agree. I think they do need the stability. He got them good results. I'm not sure how much better of a manager you're really going to get there. I do, like you said, though, the second half struggles. I do wonder if that's just like, we went all in on this half and it didn't work well, or if it's a matter of like, hey, we can't really replenish.
I think it might be a little bit of that, honestly, or a little bit more to it, but we'll see. We need to, I think there's still enough question marks there where it's hard to diagnose it fully. I did have them as one of my more likely teams to improve this year. I mean, I could see them picking up 5 or 6 games off of last year, just sort of off the jump, which will bring them to about 500. And then it's sort of about where you can go from there, especially in division, which could be weak. We'll see. There's a lot of question marks in that division, which we'll talk about here.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that. So we'll go to the other piece of news here, hiring wise. Paul Fletcher, we know where he's landed now, and that is in Lexington. He goes from Glacier to Lexington. And he will replace Mr. Manalytics in Greg Zahn, who is departing the team after going 42-83, including a 17-win first half. We talked a bit more on Paul's actual credentials and background on episode 242. So click over to there if you want to hear more about that kind of thing.
Oh, wow, you're pull the whole episode out.
Yeah, I'm that good.
So, Fletch, I mean, this is a budget hire. It's not a slate on him. It's a good opportunity for him. I mean, he took the team to the championship last year in the Pioneer League. So, I mean,
yeah, does have some Atlantic League experience too. Was a bullpen coach at York.
Yeah, Glacier's ownership's a little odd, so it makes sense getting out there. I guess. I mean, I would say this is probably one of the. I mean, just looking from the outside in at Lexington's hiring process, it does feel like they made a budget call here, which is an interesting glimpse into how they're operating right now. But that's another organization that needs stability. Will be their 4th manager in 4 years. Been a solid downhill since year 1 in indie ball, so they got to get that figured out for sure. So this is going to be a big one. Not like immediate pressure to succeed, especially in that division, but they need to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, I'm more or less looking off the field when it comes to Lexington. I think I've kind of admitted defeat on them doing something worth a damn on the field. I
Yeah,
think
that's fair.
I think we all kind of are in agreement of like, okay, they're waiting to see if Nashville gets an MLB team in a few years and they can hop back into affiliated. And I kind of feel like that's almost best for all parties at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they are thinking that way, but they honestly should be.
I mean, it's the way to go here. Although I suppose the Rays' current situation now complicates any sort of expansion thing.
Yeah, expansion's really falling off the table, man. The Rays really screwed everybody there. But that's different conversation.
I mean, really, a hurricane screwed everybody there. But you know, the Rays have
they stacked a lot of the dominoes that hurricane knocked over. I don't really have anything else to throw in. I mean, I kind of do, kind of don't. I don't know. I have a lot of Lexington info that I can't say because it's going to be like blatantly screwing sources. Sorry that I'm. So I would say, I guess, to sort of throw this back in a way that makes sense. It's not. If you're stuck on a budget, this is probably the best option you have. I would caution the fact that Paul Fletcher wasn't the most impressive. I mean, he kind of had the I don't know.
They were hot out of the gate, and they kind of didn't do much.
They won the playoff. They beat Missoula in the playoffs. That's not nothing. And you know, I'll be the first one to give a lot of credit to PJ for his 2021 championship, where he did the exact same thing. So I'm not going to slate that. You know, if they're going to give you a 2F system, you can use a 2F system how you want to. I would just say I'm a big NASCAR fan. Right now, NASCAR is having an issue. And honestly, Formula One's having the same issue. IndyCar is having an issue. So if you're a racing fan, all this will probably seem familiar. Of pay drivers, which is, you know, not necessarily the best drivers getting the jobs that are the best jobs. A lot of the time it's the guy who has sponsorship, and a lot of the time that guy has sponsorship because of like family money or connections they have, and then they get the rides, and better drivers are left hanging.
Nepo drivers.
I'm not saying that that's this. I think it's the opposite, but I do think there's a lot of budget hiring going on right now around the league, around all the leagues, and it's kind of a concerning trend. Though I did get a glimpse into American Association salaries for managers, and they are definitely a different league when it comes to that.
I do wonder if that's just we need to cut costs, we're preparing to need to cut costs, or we're just trying to be cheap.
I suspect, like with any Lexington ownership, they probably got in and expenses are a little bit higher than you would think, and the income is not what you think. And that ballpark, I will say it over and over again, is so expensive. It's so big, dude, and it's old. It's not old. Shut up. It's just in the way of like, it's right at that age where things start needing to be replaced and fixed. So that's a difficult spot to be in as a new owner, trying to invest in the product when the ballpark just needs dumb stuff like infrastructure wise. It isn't even like something a fan can enjoy really. So I think there's some of that. And, you know, you get in and you're like, all right, let's spend some money on this club. And then, but after a while, you're like, okay, like we need to start budgeting somewhere here. And it does seem like manager is one of those things. I mean, I would say he's probably making about half of what a lot of them, not a lot, but what several American Association managers are making right now would be my guess.
The only thing
not to say anything about him, is more just to shed a little light on the mentality of Lexington currently.
I do think, though, that there are going to be expenses coming up. And I do think there are teams that are like, oh, shit, we don't have good attendance right now. We can't afford to pay managers real rate. So they like find the other option and they do the math on it where they're like, how much is winning going to get us attendance wise? And more importantly, how much different is a $60,000 manager from a, say, $75,000 manager?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Because we're talking 3-4 games here. 15 G's means more than 4 games.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's, yeah, you're exactly right. And I think that is the equation going on. And the problem is a lot of teams do look at winning as not profitable necessarily. Because, I mean, honestly, unless you know what you're doing, you're not going to make more money off of winning, frankly. So yeah, it takes knowing how to market that. I remember in Lexington, they really just thought winning a championship in 2021 would make the money machine go burr. It did not. That's not how that works. You need to know how to market the fact that you're champions, and they did not. So I think that's the issue that a lot have. Everyone wants to simplify it and say, if I do A, B and C will follow. When if I do A, it opens the door to work for B and C. You know what I mean? And nobody wants
where you're going with that. I think it's just a matter of you have to work the market to get to the point where, like, yeah, you want to root for the team as opposed to go there for a night out. And I think it's tougher in markets like Lexington, where for a while it's like, come to the ballpark to see the next Houston Astro or the next Kansas City Royal. And on top of it's a college town too. So there's other things to root for, as opposed to say like Quebec, where they've been like, we are the team in town. Remember how the Expos left Montreal, the Nordiques left Quebec City. Those are your major sports teams. They're gone. You're not getting NFL or NBA there. So it's like, it's the Habs and us, and then a bunch of QMJHL teams. So you have free reign from essentially May through September. And it's easy to rally around that. And I think, honestly, the Expos will even probably really juice the scales, because if you're a hardcore baseball fan, you're looking for somewhere else to go.
Right.
Really
preferably one that doesn't put money in the same pockets.
Yeah. And a team that's already winning, already successful, already has a base. Ooh, that sounds appealing, doesn't it?
Right. Stable.
So, exactly. So I do think part of it comes down to the market too, where when you have markets that are primed for it, then it's a lot easier to sell winning versus a market where either there's a lot more going on. Take like a North Jersey market where it's like, okay, great. We have like 2 of everything 20 miles to the east. Why should we care about this? Versus a team that doesn't have anything like that. Like, say, maybe gonna shit on them a little bit, but say like Evansville, right? Where this is kind of your team.
Yeah, and I'll wrap this by saying, talking about not spending on the manager does not mean they're not going to spend. It just means, frankly, as much as it pains me coming from somebody who's more passionate about the baseball side, it makes sense in this way. People cannot possibly underestimate how damaged the brand is in Lexington right now for the Legends. If you track it again, 2019, they're minor league team. 2020, they don't play. Then it gets announced that they're leaving minor league baseball, and people are like, what the hell does that mean? I guess the team's shutting down. A little later, it's announced they're going to the Atlantic League. So you have to introduce the concept of the Atlantic League. Yes, they won championship, but their marketing was not very good. Nobody went to the games. It was empty. I was there a couple times. They were not attracting fans. Then 2022, they complicate the branding, not just, again, getting it out into people's heads. We're here. We're winning games. We're fun. Come out here. Instead, they bring the Genomes into this mess. Now there's 2 teams. People think the Legends are the Genomes now, or the Legends left. People think the Legends never came back because they still don't know about 2021. No one shows up. It's a mess. There's way too many games. Oversaturate their own market. Then new ownership comes in after a bunch of stories about being bankrupt and there being shootings at the ballpark. Then they change the brand from one everyone's familiar with, has been familiar with since the 90s, to the Counterclocks, which no one liked or wanted or asked for. That goes over like a sack of dog shit. Then new ownership again, after the other one didn't invest really, after like maybe some renovation stuff, whatever. It got out of there immediately. Legends brand is back, but like, you still need to be like, here's what we are. We're solid. We're not, because the problem is people either don't know you're there, or don't know you're the same thing they remember, or don't know what to expect there. The people who kind of started to follow it keep seeing you move around. And there's people who, when an indie ball team comes in replacing an affiliated team, they don't think, oh, we had a low A team and now we have an indie ball team with double the AAA quality ball. They think, is this even professional? And then all you have done since is be amateur as hell. So there is so much fixing to do. So I'm saying, no, save money on the baseball operations side as long as that is going into fixing your branding and your recognizability in the community, because it is trashed currently.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming to my Lexington Legends history talk.
Yeah, I think we're going to get into it a little bit with Hagerstown too, where it's you hire the people that are going to help you build the brand, and you don't so much worry about what's happening on the field until you know you have the community support in there, and you've reestablished that, hey, this is the place to be. This is a good experience. And you can do that not only for the community and the fans coming in, but for the people behind the scenes and the players and all like that.
Right.
And I think that should be the focus for Lexington, like you're saying, is doing that brand rehab.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, because it's been a horrific 5-year stretch for them.
It's a miracle there's still a team there. It really is. So, I mean, they should be encouraged by that and then run from there.
So, on that note, the only other hiring I really wanted to touch on was the new pitching coach in Gastonia.
Yeah.
Any real strong thoughts on that? No. I should also say Tony Fossas is the new pitching coach there, 12-year Major League vet, pitching coach at FAU after his career was done. He was there for 3 years, then went to the Reds org for about 13 or so years until 2021, 09 to 21, essentially. Various roles, whether pitching coach or pitching director, and then he is now in Gastonia for 25 season. Chuck and Goose will both be back there too.
Yeah. I don't have a ton on that. Yeah, I mean, that works. Yeah, I don't have a ton. That's more of somebody who can work well with Brady and work with Goose and connect with the guys. I still hear rumors that Goose struggles a bit with clubhouse management and just being consistent and keeping his head on during a long season. So somebody who works well with Goose is a good thing. Assuming that is the case, I mean, that's fine. I don't think, this wasn't a team where pitching has been brutal. They've been good. So it's not like they need a lot of rehab work. It's just sort of maintaining it and bringing somebody in that people can see and be like, hey, like, I think this is a guy who can help me get to the next level. And that's kind of the key there.
I agree with that. I also think it's nice as a community put out to say, hey, look, we got a guy that you probably know his name and recognize his face and did play baseball in this town, even if it was, 2 decades ago.
Yeah, that's fun and kind of ties things together. Yeah, I mean, anything other than that, I gotta say, I would look out for Boise to potentially drop a manager announcement maybe the next week. So keep an eye on that. I've been hearing now from a few different sides that seems to be a done deal. Yeah, other than that, nothing too crazy from my end here.
Yeah, so then we can hop right into the review.
Let's go.
All right, so we're going to keep with the alphabetical here. It's Atlantic League this week. We're going to kick it off with Charleston and march through York. So Charleston, a 69-57 record, played essentially 500 baseball, 31-32 in the first half, came alive in the second half to be 13 games above 500. The team that, just initial thoughts here, vibes basically. That's how I do on mine. They kind of surprised me, but this year I wasn't expecting them to be that good. I think I may have been on the outskirts of everyone on that one, where I was just like, I don't really know. I was very much on the fence with them, but they definitely won me over. They became a far more complete team than I was expecting there. PJ definitely proves he can work with just about anything. I think it's fairly
right.
At this point.
Getting it done in Lexington and then going to Jersey and getting a playoff run, then back to Charleston getting a playoff run. It's kind of crazy.
Exactly. I'm curious to see what happens away from the field. That does seem to be a bit of a mess. But as far as on the field goes, overall improved, and overall a team that's going to be interesting to see going forward.
Yeah. Trying to look. I mean, Keon Barnum is a certified monster at this point in time. Hawkins got hurt midway through the year, actually pretty early in the year. So that was a momentum kill. Remember, they started off real hot and then they fell apart and kind of had to rebuild that entire roster.
Had to rebuild the whole pitching staff too, because they all got picked up.
Yeah, which is, I mean, pretty impressive because it's not great. But yeah, remember Trace Supak had, was it 4 starts, 23 innings, 28 Ks, just a crazy run. 28 strikeouts, 2 walks over those starts. Unreal.
We don't really talk enough about how that pitching staff got rebuilt.
I know. I don't like to overly glaze what PJ's up to just because I'm aware of my own like pre-existing relationship working with PJ. But like I've been open enough to say like PJ sucked at building a pitching staff when I first met him. That was not me. I didn't have any impact on that. But like he has gotten so much better at putting together pitching staffs. I mean, remember he built one in Jersey too, like mid-year because nobody wanted to go pitch in Jersey. Yeah, I mean, it's really impressive what he's been able to do with that. So thank you for bringing it up so that I could talk about it. But anyway, to the specifics, I mean, Joel Agondo pitched well. Who else stuck out? Pedro Garcia. And then Mason Fox was throwing well. Those were some good guys holding together the bullpen. And then David LeBron had another solid set of appearances coming out. 120 strikeouts, 123 innings, 23 starts, by the way. Basically started the whole year. So good run for him.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to think offensively because that, I mean, you kind of breeze over their offense because you assume that PJ's going to put together a good offense. But Tillman Pugh, Gabriel Cancel. Yeah, man, that's dogs in that lineup. Clint Frazier, remember he sucked in the beginning and they showed up and started raking and then just was like, all right, peace. Like, I think I had a tweet today about retiring because you're just tired of the city you're playing in. I think Clint might have fallen into that category. Philip Irvin, by the way, had another solid year. He's becoming sort of one of those consistent indie ball guys, which is good to see. I mean, he's a really nice dude. It's good to see him at least finding something. 318 in Jersey last year, 271 in Charleston this year. Hit well in the short stint in Mexico this year. And then before that in Lexington at 275. So he's becoming one of those guys. Hopefully he can hang around to his mid-30s. It'll be good. And then Rusper Estrada was one. I've owned it before. I thought he was going to suck. I've said it before, like multiple times. I was like, this is it. I don't get the Rusper Estrada thing. And he kills it. I'm like, well, it's because I'm dumb. 22 home runs at the catcher position's crazy.
Estrada and Peoples will be a devastating combo for you.
I know, right? It's just the Ryan's a moron combo.
Yeah. Which can we also just remember that Blake Swinehart was here for 4 games?
Blake Swinehart, man. I like Blake Swinehart a lot.
6 walks, 4 games.
Blake has a World Series ring. You cannot take that away. But yeah, there's certain guys who I think are good and have potential, but they just hit whatever happens in their career to push them to indie ball happens at the exact wrong time. Like if I remember right, like Blake's young, I think he has a kid. He's like married, I think. Like it's trying to start a family. He's just in his early 30s now, like, and then trying to get on the indie ball grind from a major league stint is like it's tough, dude. That's tough, but like genuinely really nice. But like, yeah, I think Blake might have moved on at this point, and I think that's okay. Hell of a career, dude. Got a ring, man. Not many people can say that. Held the damn trade.
He is 32, and see how many major league games did he get into?
Like a good number, like 2 seasons worth at least.
300 or 234.
Yeah, he played like 3 or 4 seasons in the majors. Maybe 5, if I remember. He worked up fairly quick. I think it was like 3 or 4 years to get in the majors and played basically a full season.
Yes. First pro year was 2011. For his major league action was 2015.
Mm-hmm. Dude's a ball player, man. But like injuries got him. He's a catcher, and then he also keeps ending up in that situation where like, okay, you're a catcher, but you got injury problems, so we're gonna move to first or the outfield. But then like there's stacked first baseman outfields because it's like also PJ Phillips like lineups, which tend to have that. Just tough, man. Tillman Pugh, by the way, I'll shout out Tillman, and we're not going to talk about teams this long, but there are some guys. I don't talk about Charleston a lot because I don't like Charleston's front office, but I will. I mean, can we discuss Tillman Pugh's like career trajectory? Because it's crazy. It was it is nothing but absolutely mangling baseballs over the last like 7 years in indie ball, because he goes to he's in Vallejo with PJ when PJ's managing there in 2018, crushes, ends up in Gary, hits 357 in like half a season roughly, goes to Lexington, puts up an OPS over 1,000, and then comes back to Lexington, 800 OPS, bit of a step backwards, and then last year hits almost 280, 900 OPS. Had a bad year in a short stint with Charleston last year, in 2023 rather. 2023 is a weird year for him, but crazy, man. Tell him he is fascinating to me. Very nice guy also, by the way. Yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk on weird career paths in indie ball, which is guy who got World Series ring and then came to indie ball, and guy who went to Vallejo and then came to indie ball.
I do wonder, is he a potential indie ball Hall of Fame candidate?
It is shocking how old Tilly is. He might have gotten in the game too late.
35.
Crazy, he's 35, by the way. By the way, yeah. Genuinely
11 seasons.
Talking to him, if you have a whole conversation with Tillman and then somebody's like, how old is he? You'll say 24. Like, just feels young. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, just got kicked around in like the minor league system for a few years, and then by mid-20s he was like on with the Grays in the Frontier League, and then he got in the Pacific and like bounced around randomly. He really. Here's the funny thing: post
3 years,
second half of career Tilly is probably a Hall of Fame indie ball guy. Like, you know what I mean? He hit 256.
Like,
he went 256, 333,
like Atlantic League on,
and then in 2016 he didn't hit well, and then all of a sudden in 2017 went to Vallejo. And sometimes I wonder if like stepping down from the Atlantic or the American and the Frontier to the Pacific, like, just resets your eye or something, like just gives you a little bit more. I mean, this was a guy who was getting some homers off of American Association pitching, and then you put him in the Pacific Association toward the end of the Pacific Association's run. And,
yeah, so now he's going to be teeing off.
I mean, yeah, and PJ knows hitting. I'll give him that. And I think probably a good atmosphere for him, and he just came back with some confidence. Pretty crazy, man.
Yeah,
interesting career.
Yeah, like, see, that's the thing. Like, looking at, like, grabbing the sample size of years where, like, yeah, no, these are quality years.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough there where there's a conversation.
Yes. Oh, I agree. And if he puts up 2 more quality years, I think it's not even a conversation.
Yeah, no, 2 more years would do it. Because, like, there's a stretch in 2015 with Winnipeg, solid stretch, 36 games, but still very good stretch. And then 2018 Gary, again, about half the season, good numbers there. And then the 1 year in Lexington, and then Charleston. There's enough here where I'm like, you know, I could see it. The problem is, like, when you look at the whole Baseball Reference numbers,
right?
You gotta dock for the Pacific Association, and like,
true. However, even if you do, the numbers still aren't bad. I don't know.
Yeah, but you need to be a little bit above, not bad.
No. There's something about, though, and this is where I was trying to go with it, was there's something about being the Hall of Fame isn't Hall of great numbers. It's Hall of Fame. Yes. And being the dude who shows up from the Pacific Association and starts ripping baseballs off people's faces is kind of wild. And that's kind of a dog move. Like, that kind of makes me think, ooh, that's kind of indie ball Hall of Fame. Because also it's a guy has he been in every league? Like, it's a resume, man. It's interesting. I mean, technically, I'm not fighting for it. Like, I'm not fighting for it, but I am, like, I think just the story almost is Hall of Fame. As long as it continues for another year or so. I'm
running parallel with you there because I see 11 years, and to be dedicated to that grind for 11 seasons.
Yeah, dude.
That's
a dog, man. I said it.
And the thing is, like, you're in Vallejo making probably $200 a week.
Yeah, just absolutely defining the word grind, man.
Yeah, you're playing Frontier League Grays. You take a pit stop in the Can-Am League for 9 games in Ottawa, so you gotta get a visa and all that bullshit. Unless it was just like a trip down to the U.S. where they needed a guy, and he was the guy. Like, even still, they're like, that's a grind and a half. So, like,
And nice the whole time, man.
Yeah, so like he's definitely not first ballot.
No, I agree.
But he's definitely got that kicks around. He's the kind of guy that kicks around like 45% for a very long time because you're like, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, and as people, talk about it a little bit more, the resume gets a little more support.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you see other guys get in there and go, well, if he got in, then you gotta give him more points.
Yeah, sort of Scott Rowland type.
I was thinking kind of like Scott Rowland, Todd Helton kind of thing.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Any case, to the main point, going to Gastonia next.
Yes.
83 and 43, dominant first half of 46 wins, and then still a plus 11 in the second half. But I feel like it's, kind of the same tune here. You're going to hear me say that about High Point later on, but still a great team. They need to get over the hump. I trust the people generally running the show. So I'm curious to see if they can do it. And like they were playing great baseball in the second half, but it just wasn't like, holy hell, amazing compared to that first half. So I don't really have any criticisms of them. I mean, like playoffs are playoffs. They're unpredictable. It's tough to win there. And I look at like the team they had and like Wiley provided a lot of offense. Gatewood's one of the best players in the league last year. Stowers was great. Watson was great. They got contributions from just about everyone. They had, a good mix of former major league talent, typical indie ball guys. Pitching was good too. I mean, like, I don't have too many real complaints here overall. Like, Lothar was phenomenal when he was there. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I am. Like, really solid pitching team. Or, good pitching team. Probably not really solid. The 4.64 is what it is. But batting wise, phenomenal.
True. And they went through like 10, what I would call like above average pitchers throughout that year. I mean,
yeah.
Some just didn't stick around, which ain't on them. I mean, offensively, it's a typical Gastonia being an issue. They built well to that ballpark. Jake Gatewood headlined, in my mind, he was the best player on the team. But then, I mean, following that up with Josh Stowers, he's a problem. Patrick Mazeka, rather. I always say Mazeka. I don't know why. Mazeka. Good Lord. I said his name a lot last year, and I'm just like, nah, on the pronunciation. Jacob Robinson, Kevin Watson, Justin Wiley, you kind of name the names, but it's just a tough lineup to navigate through, and everybody has a different way they can get you. I mean, like, the really only like unintimidating average in that group is a guy who hit 34 bombs. So fun. You would like to get more of like Jack Reinheimer. He didn't even play most of the season. But then he got picked up, which is weird. That's a weird one. That's everything. De La Rosa, he was fine. You want a little more production out of the outfield, but sure.
Robeson.
Robeson was good. Yeah. Pitching wise, that's where they had a lot of guys. I mean, like, bullpen wise, I mean, they just were just throwing guys together. Like Sanders, like guys, not even for a full season. Like Sanders, Clifton dipped in, Horvath dipped in, Thompson, he was there for longer. Nate Pedden, dude, they finally, I've been saying for a long time that Nate Pedden is a guy. Like, there's the raw stuff was always there, I felt like, but it just didn't work. Like, it was a bad scene, and it didn't work in like spectacular fashion. Like, could not miss a bat if the guy walked up without a bat. I swear it would go into the dugout and find one. Like, I mean, we're talking, he never had a whip below 1.6 since he was like in like whatever the weird COVID league he was in 2020.
Sir, that was the Black Sox Washington League.
Yeah, but like
baseball brilliance.
Every other full season, he never had a whip below 1.6. He was half that this year. He was at 0.8 whip. Never went like below 10 Ks or 10 hits per nine. Really had less than 5 hits per nine. Literally, he halved or better every bad number. Finally stopped missing the zone like crazy. He's still striking out almost 10 per 9. And he was always this like multi-inning guy, potentially a starter, flirting with rotation. Like if I remember right, when I saw him, he was kind of like wanting to get, like he kind of wanted to be a starter. I think letting him just eat in short outings in relief has been a vibe. He found something in Estonia, probably got some sort of good strategy to attack a little better, getting comfortable in the Atlantic League after it's been like 4 years now. But I mean, his ERA going into this year, I mean, he had an 8 his first short stint in the Atlantic League, then an ERA near 6 in 2022, ERA over 8 in 2023, and then a 1.46 ERA in 2024 over 24 and 2/3 innings. Amazing. I just love that for him. Well deserved. Makes me happy. That was my glazing of Nate Benton. Thank you for coming to the to that segment of the episode.
Anyone else from Gastonia really want to mention?
Okay, other than that, there's a lot of guys to mention, and I just went way in deep on one reliever who pitched 17 times.
Gunnar Kynes.
Oh, yeah. What do you think?
I think I'm going to keep naming guys that are either borderline or definitely Indie Ball Hall of Fame caliber players. I'm just saying.
Okay. Maybe.
I mean, if we're talking longevity, 8 seasons there.
Yeah.
Mainly Frontier Atlantic.
He just had some weird blips along the way where it's like, okay, like ERA's near 5, kind of floating, and then all of a sudden, like, nasty. Like, literally, 2017 was filthy. 2018 was 2019 was filthy. 2021 was 2022 You know what I mean? It kind of he struggles.
And then 23 though, he answers back with this largest workload and has a pretty good year.
ERA near 6 this year in Gastonia, so it's tough. I like Gunnar Kynes though, but this is not a Gunnar Kynes hate take. It's just you like to see more. Speaking of, I mean, Brian Blanton, you like to see more from. By the way, 4.6 ERA was disappointing out of him this year, but we'll see if he bounces back next year.
Yeah, I will say my lock for Indie Ball Hall of Fame type guys here from this team, and it's definitely cheating because he's more of a Joliet guy this past season, but Zach Westcott.
Oh God, yeah.
I don't think there's been such a lock.
Westcott. Yeah, for sure.
He's absolutely dominant. Just dominant. I mean, 11 seasons and 1,100 innings pitched.
Craziness.
Impressive on the arm, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Keep cooking, brother. But with those strikeout numbers, keep going.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no argument for me on that one.
Straight up forgot he threw almost 150 innings in 2023.
Oh my God. Sorry, I just got to our next team and I saw something that jarred me to my core to see.
All right, then we'll go right to Hagerstown then. 36 and 89. 20 wins in the first half, 16 in the second half. Off the field, great foundation. Mark's doing what you brought him in to do. Mm-hmm. Please win soon. There's my vibe.
Oh my God. Or at least make it pretty.
Make it competitive.
I mean, it was just such a badly built team.
I mean, Wellington Dotel was cool. Cedar Colvert showed up.
Yeah, Wellington Dotel, his numbers were not impressive, but a lot of that was from like an O for like 20-something stint in the beginning of the season. And they're striking out kind of like crazy. Like, I mean, really, really, really struck out. 113 Ks is like,
game.
Quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, it's not David Washington numbers, which just going to shout out one more time before I forget it. Second place in most strikeouts in the league was 147. First place was 198 because David Washington just is up there to get 3 true outcomes. I love him. I love him so much. What a psycho.
Wellington Dotel, by the way, 1 game away from 1,100 played in Indie Ball. Lock on this team. He is the lock for Hall of Fame on this team. Career slash is good enough. And, I thought he had more home runs than he does. I don't know why. I thought he got to the 100 mark, and he has not gotten to the 100 mark. He sits at 82. Which going to an age 39 season, I don't know if he's going to give it one more crack at it. But if he does, I mean, he'd have to set a career record in an age 39 season. Most likely a bad team.
Hagerstown, though. Oh, my. So, again, I rank every offensive performance of the season and pitching performance. For the start, I highlight you if you're in the top 30% of pitchers or hitters. I also highlight you if you're in the bottom 50%, right? They have 0 in the top 30% of batters. However, of their 13 qualified hitters, 9 of them were below league average, at least in my ranking. Pitching-wise, they had 27 qualified pitchers. 2 of them were in the top 30% of the league, and 20 of them were below league average. So 20 of the 27 qualified pitchers they had performed at below league average, at least according to my rankings and my stat tracking. Like, goodness. New England didn't do that. New Jersey didn't do that. Well, New Jersey. No, Sussex might have done that, but New Jersey didn't do that in Frontier. That's a lot. When you combine the number of below average at bats taken and below average like batters faced from the pitching perspective, that's a lot of just disadvantaged bad matchups throughout a season. There's no way to survive that. No wonder they won so many like week-long losing streaks. It's kind of wild. Not to jump on them, like get what they're trying to do. Year one is tough, especially coming from. It's not like when I keep saying Minakazi keeps moving around. He brings dudes from his last team. Mark Mason had to bring guys from the Empire State Grays. Not helpful. Like, not going to do it. So I get it, but damn, dude. Once in a while you see it and it hurts. Love Demetrius Moore, though. Would die for him.
Oh, yeah, no. He's a great play. Great guy.
Mm-hmm. What a dog. Great dramatic Twitter account. I love a ball player who grinds on the field and also tweets a little bit like a teenage girl. I love it for him. He's a vibe.
I hate that you're right.
He might hate to hear that. Okay. I can deal with that. I'm just going to hop in real quick. My only real disappointment, I think his team performed to about what you'd expect. Seal Culver hung in. Moritz had a solid year, but for what they needed, 4 home runs, have an outfield spot over 70 games isn't really it. But my guy, Osmi Gregorio, crushed in his first indie ball stint. 72 games with York in 2021, slashed 309, 352, 454, and then has just not been able to find it ever since. Went to Lexington in 2023, hit under 250. Back to Lexington this year, hit 250. Hagerstown after that, or maybe before that, we had the order of operations there, but in 730 OPS just hasn't been what we saw. It's frustrating. I want that for him, and it's just not there.
Jay Solsky is an interesting case to me because he wasn't particularly good in Hagerstown, but then he goes to the Nats organization and then turns it on.
Yes, I agree.
Interesting.
Also, tough to see Nelly Rodriguez struggle, by the way. I love Nelly. I think he's coming up on some crazy. Oh, yeah. I think he's coming up on some home run titles on the indie ball front. I think he's approaching 100 indie ball homers, sitting in like 80. I think he hit his 80th this time.
Oh, sweet. But for the sake of keeping things moving,
yeah, sure,
we do have to go to High Point now. Whilst you look up Nelly Rodriguez stats. Yeah,
he's over 80, but only hit 6 this year. It sucks. Anyway, continue.
High Point.
Yeah,
they were 34 and 52 on nearly identical records in each half, 36-38 wins respectively. It never really felt like they were the quality of team that they actually were. I don't know why that was. I always felt like they were always chasing. I guess that was kind of it.
They never went on the run. Like they never just went on like a 2-week tear where like, Jesus, don't play the Rockers right now. It's a war crime.
Yeah. And like, I get it too. Cause like you had Gastonia in your division, you had Charleston in your division, and then they normally draw like a bad matchup every once in a while too. So it's tough to really get those runs going when you're playing, those two, and then you're probably getting either one hot team from the north or your best bet of getting a run is just beating up on Lexington for a week. But man, it's still just never felt like they really were going. Never felt like they were overpowering like they had been in years past, even when they had stiff competition there. And I mean, it just followed kind of the typical result of like, okay, they fell short again. And I feel like I need a little bit more from them. I don't really know what it is. I mean, like a guy like Bennett Klinsky showed up big. Or, well, yeah, he did his job. Evan Edwards, a guy we didn't really talk all that much about, but a solid season nonetheless. You know, like there were guys that put together decent years, but then there were guys that are just like, okay. I mean, pitching wise, they were great, but you know, even still.
I have a lot of thoughts on this team. I'll make them quick because I'll express them probably in some other medium because I think they're interesting. Starting offensively, it was a good but flawed offense. Like if you look at the bulk numbers of runs scored and things like that, it's not bad. But if you look at it, the standout guys were, I would say Colin Moran, who, he hit 290, but he also had like 8 home runs during 14 at-bats, and he only played 50 games. So what's that? If you're looking at guys who played like full season, you're looking at Martin Figueroa, Ben Klinsky, Evan Edwards, Connor Owings, and Ryan Grochon. The problem is, Figueroa, he does hit well he hits 280, makes it double digits home runs. Good season there. Bennett Klinsky, he hits 29 home runs. Great year. However, he's a sub 250 hitter. Edwards, 270 hitter. Owings, 276 hitter. Grochon, 324 guy, but not a ton of homers. They kind of had this weird thing going where you were either a get on base guy or you were a home run guy, which is fine. But it felt like they didn't line up a lot. You know, like they either someone was cold or Ben Klinsky went a long cold stretch at one point and like that hurt. It was just one of those things where, maybe your on base guys are hot, but your home run guys aren't, or they're having a tough series or bad matchups. And I think that was part of it. The MO on them, by the way, around the league is they cannot hit lefties. That was always the thing. They were like, give them lefties, they're going to suck. And it kind of checked. Versus righties, they hit 265. So he slashed 265, 360, 443. That's an 802 OPS. Versus lefties, they batted 228, 336, 394, a 730 OPS. So basically, I mean, they're batting 220 as a team against lefties this year. So yeah, it's hard to get with a 220 average, you can survive maybe, but just you can't get enough guys on base consecutively to make your power hitters relevant. That's kind of what it comes down to. On the flip side, this will be maybe the most underrated pitching team in indie ball, by the way. I think like of all time, this will go down to one of the better ones. They are in a pitcher friendly ballpark, but they were like had a 126 ERA plus by my math, which is like 20 means they're 26% better than the average pitching staff in the league. Insanely good, insanely deep. I got them at 27 qualified pitchers. One of them falls below league average by my numbers. 15 of them are in the top 30% of pitchers this year. And that's minus some dudes who were really good, who just underperformed, but they had moments where they were just nasty. Guys like Kyle Halban, who had moments, he had a sub 2 ERA, but he just didn't do it super consistently. He didn't like have his strikeout stuff as like he might usually. There was a lot like that. That was a difficult pitching staff to deal with, from a starting Bedrosian, starting Brandon Liebrandt was in for 4 starts. Yeah, man, it was just a really good pitching staff. I can't even say all the names because it's just going to be listing guys, but yeah, the offense let down for sure. There was just not a complete lineup throughout the year.
I'd go with that. I'd agree with that. I will say I still do have to find my one guy I want to throw out for the Indie Ball Hall of Fame conversation. I am struggling a little bit with that.
Oh,
right now my best name to throw out there is like Jameson McGrain, and I still think he's a couple of years off from being in serious conversation.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That being said, on the track, another nice guy, but on the track.
Yeah, that's what I got for them. I don't have too much more, but
obvious name that I totally forgot here, but I want to make sure remains the obvious name before I say it. Yeah, less obvious than I thought. Never mind.
All right.
I saw Quincy Lattimore. I was like, wait, that obviously him.
Love
Like,
Quincy Lattimore, though. It's so funny.
Yeah.
He just goes to Italy and tears it up now and again. So funny.
I respect the hell out of that, though.
Oh, hell yeah.
Italian vacation?
Yeah, dude.
Yes. Go for
Hitting
it.
meatballs? Sure, dude.
Just go tear up the Italian league and then just chill on the Amalfi.
3 home runs in foreign leagues. It's so funny. Hold on,
There's
let's
some
see.
small
As a
Italian
reminder
child
of
that
what
grew
he
up
did,
thinking that he's Babe Ruth.
as a reminder of his last Italian season, he had 24 games, which is a full season, as I recall. Slashed 382, 533, 719 with 8 homers in those 24 games. 1252 OPS. Hurtful. Yeah, no, this is a terrible offensive league too. Like, I mean, he had double the OPS of like the league average. The league average was in the 600s for OPS. And he was like, yeah, Poppy's going to put that up in the 12s. Good God.
So what you're telling me is there is a small Italian child that's going to grow up thinking that he's actually Barry Bonds.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
I'm going to tell my kids he was Barry Bonds. Italians watching Quincy Lattimore. That's a tweet made it happen.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, man. What a monster. Love him. Anyway.
Switching gears, next up is a Lancaster A7155 team, sub 500 first half, plus 17 second half, because second half Stormers is real. Ross again coming up doing his usual thing. I will say I don't have too many strong opinions on too many guys here. Gage Howard was solid as usual. Carpenter's interesting, and then obviously we got to talk about Christian Santana, who was a driver for a non-insignificant portion of the season for them until they wound up going to Mexico and making it there. Good for him. But I mean, the fact that for 35 games you've seen over 400 is kind of insane.
Yep.
Pitching wise, no overly strong opinions here. I mean, like, there's 3 or 4 guys I'm sure you're really going to mention, and then there's some other guys that also had good years, but you know. I will say one question before you get deep into it.
Yeah, you're good.
Is it a fair statement to say Ross did more with less this year?
Oh yeah, for sure. And he lost a good bit too. I mean,
yeah,
the core really was. There was a noticeable drop off when Santana left. I mean, it's hard when he's a centerpiece of the lineup, and he was doing so much and just fell apart. But they still managed to bounce back and get it done. Made the second half Stormer run. Keep in mind he was not there in the second half, so they did that without him. But yeah, I think that's completely fair. Isan Diaz, Damon Dew, Sean Dunston getting it done. I mean, not overly impressive numbers this time around, but he's still doing the thing. Gage Howard, Mason Martin, Christian Santana, as you said.
Trayvon Robinson showing up again for a
Trayvon Robinson, man, doing the thing, coaching, playing, doing whatever.
Another dude. Is he the Indie Ball Hall of Fame candidate from the squad? I feel like he maybe.
What about Ross Peoples?
Yeah, I mean, technically, player for both as player and coach, or are we combining that for one?
Yeah, player and coach. Body of work.
Compiler.
That's brutal. Tough
I
take.
won't have compilers in my hall.
Oh my God, you're insane.
I'm not the one that doubts him every year.
Yeah, fair. I feel like for a team that doesn't usually bring in MLB guys, even guys with like limited MLB experience, the guys they brought in this year did well, especially on the pitching side. Like they didn't really do it on the MLB side, but AJ Alexi, Caleb Berringer, Philip Deal, Steven Agosek, Matt Swarmer all pitched well in various stints with the team. And like, I thought that was interesting because it's not really the MO for Lancaster. It just sort of caught my eye. But yeah, pitching was good. Would have liked to see a little more from Niall Ball. Augie Silk was a letdown. Sorry, dog. That was really brutal on Augie. But Yeah, this was just a year where you would hope that Augie had like a big growth year, and it wasn't really there. Brady Tedesco, remember there was a lot of talk in the beginning of the year about like the turnover in this pitching staff, and then like all of the familiar faces seemed to show up, which is really funny. Like Silk, Ball, Tedesco was still around. Tedesco was the only guy from or I think it was the top strikeout guy from 2023 to come back. Pitched okay, had a sort of solid, not crazy year, but 20 starts, covered some ground. So yeah, so I think it's fair to say, like you said, though, that they did more or less this year.
Yeah, it feels like a rebuild year and a revamp year, and they still made the postseason.
Yeah, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Devil magic.
Well, that's what they typically do. And I will say, Niall Ball, I forgot how many innings this dude eats. Yeah,
man, he eats innings, and he has not been hitting as many people, which is cool. Because let me see, what were those numbers looking like?
17, 16, 11, 9. That's all.
Yeah, see, we're going the right direction, dude.
58 total hit batters in his indie ball career.
Yeah, very consistent on the walks, but striking out more this year. Struck out almost a batter per inning, which is cool. So it's going the right way. Now Ball will have a few outings a year where you're just like, oh, he's God. And then he'll have a couple outings where you're like, you need to get him off the mound and never let him touch it again. It's really confusing.
He is a dude that you feel like it's always going to be better. And you're like, please, consistency.
See, I will say more it's a mix of every time I see an Al Ball start, I'm like, I might see a no-hitter, or I might see a 4-hour-long game, which is 8 innings of bullpen. Like, he has the true implosion potential, but also true just dominant, make a wasteland of your lineup potential. It's really fascinating. There's not many pitchers like that out there where it's just any given day you could be getting that.
So, cool little fun fact for you. In his 2 college seasons listed on Baseball Reference, he hit 24 batters. In the first season, it appears he was a bullpen arm. He threw 21 games, didn't start a single one, hit 12 guys. The next year, he was a starter, and he appeared in 14 games and hit 12 batters.
Hell yeah, dude. You gotta let him know. You gotta let him know you're there. You know what I'm saying?
And establish the zone early.
You gotta announce your presence with 30.
All right, so we'll go now to the Lexington Legends.
Yeah. Limited highlights.
A little bit of a train wreck, safe to say, with a 42-48 season, 17 wins the first half, 25 the next one. Better ownership than past years. Train wreck on the field. And next question I have for you, and you can tell me if this is a fair question, is Greg Zahn a baseball terrorist?
I'll have to check the analysis on that one.
The analytics are not looking good. The
analytics do not look good. Well, that's one less issue in the Atlantic League.
Cole Cotton was great, though.
Peter Gonzalez had a good year, by the way. Also,
we didn't talk about it. Yeah,
Matt Botcher, really good year.
Yeah, there's Cole a lot of
really
graduating. Yeah, the graduating class from Schaumburg with guys like Howard and Botcher and all them, all turned out to be really solid guys.
Graduating class. It's funny.
I mean, at a certain point, you do graduate from the Frontier League.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell them that, but yeah.
You age out, so like.
But I mean, the problem is it's just not a lineup. It's maybe add Howell in there, but yeah, Corey Howell's not going to save this thing. I mean, it's like a mix of guys hitting under 270, and then one guy hitting over 270 he was only there for 30 something games. So yeah, it was a mess. It was a lot of turnover, basically 5 through 9 in that lineup, and no real answers.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I mean, it was just not. There's good and there's not good. This not good. I mean, there's pieces. I guess is the best way of putting it. But that's not a team. It's there's one hockey analyst that always says, "Are you a club or are you a team?" And this felt like a club, not a team.
Yeah, because here's my thing. This lineup essentially performed to expectations. Like, it wasn't like, you want to see a better year of this guy and this guy. This is about right. Everyone basically hit their projections or overachieved it. It was just not a good lineup. I mean, on the pitching side, there was a little more of a silver lining with Nick Gardewine, but he was only there for relief purposes. And, How good that does to you when you're getting rocked in a lot of these games. Now, there were a lot of games that they lost that were close, which is interesting. 10 and 19 in one-run games, that won't work. 0-4 in extra innings, hate that. And I think I can pull one more, which kind of sheds some light on the situation. Where, let's see, Lexington somehow had a losing record when they scored first in games. So there you go on that one, 27-32. Let's see. There was one more where I was like, goodness, what are we doing, Lexington? Okay, there. We won it when they were tied going into the ninth inning. They went 1-9. Statistically improbable, friends. Like you'd have to. That's tough. That's tough. I mean, the next worst record is like a 1-3, essentially. That's about it. 4-8, maybe. That's crazy. To their defense, I mean, they were 32-1 when winning after 8 innings, so I guess that's good. Yeah, it's just when they didn't score first. The late innings was not the situation for Lexington this year, and that was just a lack of depth. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that we wouldn't be surprised by that. What's his face? I always struggle with the pronunciation. Nick Lau, solid rotation piece, but Aldry Acosta, he was good, but only in like limited outings, and then more limited outings. Starting was what's his face? Scott, Wesley Scott. He pitched somewhat well, but that was about right. Yeah, man. Matt Reitz, he had moments, but just didn't really do it. It just not a lot to write home about on this team.
I mean, yeah, they're not a good team. I mean, like I don't even have an Indie Ball Hall of Fame candidate here, like maybe Mikey Reynolds, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all about this, but they did go through 55, 66 players, and 2 of them had major league experience, which is pretty jarring. 3 of them had major league experience, which is pretty jarring in the Atlantic League. I mean, it's not the be-all end-all, obviously, but it just shows the caliber of player you're getting in there, especially compared to, like, again, the PJ teams. Like, it's possible. It's not the city, you know? Actually, Lexington's a good destination because you good bars in the airport. It's all people want.
Bars in the airport.
Yeah. Sorry, Lexington. It was a bad one. But hey, new manager, so things are looking up.
Lexington is the definition of a team where you're talking about what's happening off the field, not on the field.
Right.
And I can't tell it's good or bad for them, but
we'll find out.
A little bit of both. But
yep.
Long Island's up next, 64 and 62, sub 500 first half, +5 in the second half. I really felt like the first half was more of a feeling out. First year with Lou Ford as a manager, so it felt like everyone was figuring it out that first half. Second half felt more Long Island-like, but still not quite there, although I do cut them some slack because the 6-game skid at the end when it was like, okay, what are we playing for here? It makes the record look worse than it was. We went back and forth while it was happening. If those games mattered more, would that record have been different? It probably would have been dramatically, probably not, but would have been somewhat different. Overall, though, they are in a spot where they make it interesting going into next year. They still had plenty of guys that had major league experience like they typically do. Some of them showed up, others didn't. There were some damn impressive.
Bradley too here. Frank Schmidl, but of course, their studs didn't stick around. I mean, Chance Cisco looked good, but he got hurt. Drew kept getting hit by pitches. Finally took a foul ball, I think, off the hand while catching. That was the end of that. Poor guy. Yeah. Anthony Antonini stepped in, though. He had a good year backing him up. Or Aaron Antonini, by the way. I don't know why I went Anthony on that one. Ryan McBroom had it was not a boring team. It was kind of a fun vibe. Yeah. It just wasn't.
Wei Yin Chen was there.
Wei Yin Chen out there being a dog.
17 starts, 87 innings.
Yeah, not very good. That return on investment was not what they expected. Mid 6 ERA was not what they're looking for there. Dino Crisino, another one of those guys who might pitch 4 great innings or absolutely implode. Al Albuquerque keeps dealing, which is funny. 38 years old, doesn't care.
Can we just talk about the fact that Raymond Santos and Matt Saylor both threw over 20 innings each and had sub-1 ERA?
Yeah, nasty. Yeah, those were the 2 guys I was going to shout out. That one was crazy. And Emilio Marquez had a really good year too. I mean, 25 innings, sub-3 ERA, both bullpen and relief outings. So that's kind of whatever he needed. That was nice. But other than that, just kind of middle of the road out of the pitching staff.
Fun fact for you.
Yeah.
Santos, 3 earned runs all year in 56 and 2/3 innings. Phenomenal work. Goes to Dominican Winter League this year. He's thrown 2 innings so far, giving up 4 earned runs.
Ooh, hate to see that.
Funny how that goes, ain't it?
Yeah, life comes at you fast, man.
It sure does. But yeah, Scott Kelly was here too.
Yeah, that's right.
Scott Kelly, he just keeps going around. There are definitely guys. What was that?
A little round and round, nothing. All right, never mind. Fine.
We're gonna keep moving. But that's the thing. Like, he is by far the guy. There's some guys on this team that you can make arguments for. Scott Kelly absolutely is like Indie Ball Hall of Fame because he's just constantly here.
Just getting after it every year, doing it, showing up.
Yeah, here's the thing. I still defend Somerset, regardless of affiliation or not, they should retire his number. And the thing is, numbers wise, not that good of a ball player. Realistically, it's 20.
I was going to give you some room to explore that.
Yeah, 2016, real middle of the road year, but fine. And then 2021, there's a weird aberration where he hits over 300, hits career high in home runs, shows up. You're like, oh, well, maybe. And then
is this who he is now? No.
Yeah. Yep, just right back. I mean, hell, you can very well argue this was his second best season as a pro. But the thing is, he's just constantly here, constantly doing his thing. Got to be great in the room. Solid defender. Yeah, right.
Out here doing Scott Kelly stuff, dude.
Yeah, he's kind of a utility guy when you get down to it. Can play middle infield. He can play the outfield. He could do whatever you really need him to do. I put him in the hall just for that alone.
I don't know. It would be debated.
We lean heavy on the fame part of that one.
Fair enough.
Not the quality part on that one.
I can allow that.
I mean, the real answer for this one is Lou Ford, but.
Oh, yeah.
How's that? That's the first battle if I've ever seen it.
I think so. It was that last year at his mid 40s where he just hit 300. I was in 100 at bats. I was like, all right, sure, Lou.
Just still got it. Frankly, I'm half surprised this year he wasn't screw this shit, give me a bat.
I assumed he would get it. I think we even talked about it before the season. We're what are the odds? And I said it was better than 50-50.
Yeah, I was I kind of expect him to. He should.
I mean, just there's so many situations where if somebody gets signed, somebody's hurt, all of a sudden you have 2 open spots on your bench. You might as well just grab a bat and fill one. But maybe Lou's dude, I'm so done being on that side of the cage. But
he still hit 260 last year.
True. It's true.
So he still got it.
Madman activities.
God, here's what's great about this sport. Southern Maryland, you're up next, 53 and 72. Pretty middle of the road, 500 first half. And then it went off the rails, 22 and 40. Mid-team and organization, every which way you cut it. Same typical on-field issues. New off-the-field issues. And it just feels like this is an organization that if anyone needed a clean start and clean slate, it would be them.
Yeah. I mean, the majority of their pitching staff came in below league average this year, the majority of their lineup, I meant to say, came in below league average this year. I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean,
yeah, that's why Lansky.
Worse than, yeah.
Mercado hit for power, and Aaron Hill, surprisingly solid power numbers this year.
Yeah. At what point, by the way, you start really talking about Mike Wetlansky, by the way?
Yeah.
Year one in Indy ball hit 270, but then since then, slash 320, 400, 660, and then 304, 420, 465. Power is down this year, but still got after it, man. And I think power is down this year because there's no way he was seeing the pitches that was good. He was the only thing you had to avoid in the lineup. There's no way he's getting stuff down the heart of the plate, so you can't really blame him. Yeah, tough situation for him, but keep an eye on Michael Lansky. I'm high on him. 27, still got a few good years left if you want to get after it that way. So, yeah. I never know what to make of the limited pitching staff for Southern Maryland. I'm like, that's cool. You're consistent. You keep your guys for the year, but I'm also like, does that just mean you're cheap? Hard to tell. Can I say the hard thing? Can I ask the hard question?
I know what you're gonna say, and I don't like
it. I know. I don't like it either.
Leave Daryl alone.
I know.
So what if his arm's cooked at this point?
Which, again, Daryl had a leg injury in 2023. He struggled and pitched in a limited capacity through there. And by limited, I mean still threw over 100 innings. Hilarious. Sub 5 ERA still for him on that one. In 2022, he has sub 3.5 ERA, looked good. This year, nearly a 7 ERA over 150 innings, still 8 innings like crazy. So let's not take away from that. But I mean, a 7 ERA every 5 days is tough. The bullpen was still fairly solid. And when it comes down to it, you need a rotation that can get the ball in their hands in a relevant situation. And he was their worst starter this year, really. And you have to wonder. I mean, he's going on 39. I assume he gives it a run this year, and if it doesn't go well, maybe that's
the end of the line.
Which is fine, dude. What a career! First ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, absolutely! Like,
what a career! I mean,
you have the conversation: is he the best Indy ball pitcher?
Across the 1,600 inning line on Indy ball innings this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Over 1,100 strikeouts. If he comes back and he goes the full distance this year, is a real shot that he's going to get to that. Probably he'll get 290 on the starts. He probably needs 2 years if he wants to get to 300. Oh, I'm looking at games. My mistake. I always just conflate games with starts when it comes to him, but hey, they crossed over that 4 for the career on the ERA.
I know. Doesn't do justice.
Exactly. Like that, the last 2 years, like I know you can't just pick and choose what you want, but like part of what makes him great too is he'll go out there and he'll just tank the innings. He doesn't care. Nearly 200 innings in an Indy ball season is crazy. And to do it twice is wild.
Yeah.
And doing them twice in your 30s, once as a 36-year-old, where it's like, yeah, I'm still by far a best pitcher, so I got to go out there and perform too. It's just like crazy. And 3 shutouts that season. Crazy.
Yeah, and now part of me is going to jump in and say a lot of his complete games over time have been. I noticed he had a disproportionate number of them being in doubleheader games, which are shortened. But also, he is a guy where if he comes out for a 7-inning doubleheader game, he's throwing a complete game. Like that's that on that. There were a couple of games where I think he didn't even pitch that well, and he was like, "Well, not going to burn multiple pitchers on arms." Yeah, it was just such a pitching coach thing to do, also, which is really funny.
But see, that's also the thing, though. If he's in the dugout as your pitching coach and he just went out through 7 innings where he got just torched, like, what are you going to say? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, no.
Yeah. Well, how about this one?
Backed up his stock.
So from 2017 to 2022, he had a 361 ERA. Over 800 plus innings. 5 seasons, 800 plus innings, a 360 ERA. That's real. Like one of the best stretches of Indy ball pitching ever, right? Gotta be.
Yeah, it is.
Well, either way, it will be a continued topic, whether or not this is the end of the road for Daryl Thompson. I just want anybody listening to know this is not us like preying on the downfall of Daryl or anything. It is like mostly out of reverence and like for the awareness of like, hey, if this is it, like we like tune into every Daryl start, like, because you're going to look back and wish you did.
Because it's just an impressive thing to watch.
And like even this year when he didn't really have it, there were still some moments where like I remember one clearly where it was just like it was a tough one. Like it was the first inning, he gave up a couple runs, I think. It might have been the second time through the lineup. I think it was the first time. And then it was like he's in a jam and 6, 7, 8 come up, young guys, and Daryl just was like, well, that's the end of this inning. And just dadded them, just was like, you're not going to be able to figure out how I'm going to go about this at bat. And you're still going to be trying to figure out as you walk back to the dugout and you're going to be disappointed. And I think it was like, you think you might have gotten a double play out of it and a strikeout. It's just like, well, almost when you looked up the guys and you realized like, oh, these are young kids who are new here. This is not going to go well for them. And it was just like, I wonder, even now, even in a game he was struggling, I was like, well, this is going to be classic Daryl, and he delivered it. So it's just love it.
He is a special talent.
Yes.
On this level. And
so I'd like to see him. Southern Maryland remains titleless, by the way, and they're now lengthy. Is there 20 years in the Atlantic League, right? Over?
Not quite, I don't think. I think they're coming up on it. I don't think they're there yet.
You might be
founded
right.
in 06.
Yeah, that's right. So they're coming up on 20 years. Still no championship. And frankly, heading the wrong direction. First time since COVID they didn't make. Well, now second straight year they didn't make the playoffs. I'd like to see Daryl pitching for a competitive team, but we'll see.
There's a lot of things I'd like to see when it comes to Southern Maryland.
Right.
But hey, at the very least, Daryl's going to get his number retired there.
Hell yeah, man. Well deserved. Should get it probably. Whole league should retire it.
Honestly, you're not wrong. But how funny it would be if Southern Maryland was just like, no, we're not going to retire 20. It's too common of a number.
It would be pretty on the nose for them, but we'll see.
Yeah. So our penultimate team here is the Staten Island Dolphins, as Baseball Reference likes to call them.
Yeah, crazy. What's that about?
Yes, the Fairy Hawks, as some would know. We talked briefly when we brought up Minnecazi here. Their big thing was Pablo Sandoval, the ace pitcher, as it would turn out to be. Yes, but they had some other guys that had some solid years. Nate Scantlin, great year. Luis Castro, solid year.
Really good year, yeah. Taylor Motter had a good month and a half. Really impressive. Turned into a situation. Yeah. Colby Johnson.
Hey, Jinx, you owe me Coke.
Sure, man. I didn't know you had a Coke problem, but we'll do that. Oh my God, Brian McKenna, really good year coming out of the pen.
Really, like a bullpen guy.
Aaron Leisure looked really good in the rotation.
Yeah, it was like him and
Roddy Baker out of the pen. Brian Warzak out of the pen. That was it. I mean, Christian Capiano, you want to see. Yeah, it
very disappointing.
Do it.
Shamoran, another disappointing guy.
Yeah, I mean that should have been a solid 1, 2, 3, and it was just a 1.
Yeah,
and friends.
I mean, hell, when you got to drag Nate Rowe back, and he's one of your better arms, it's like
stop.
It's not a good look, boys. I mean,
you do not like to see it.
Yeah, he hasn't really pitched real innings since 2021.
We won't harp on it too long, but as we mentioned earlier, I mean, we do think there could be better things ahead, just marketing a second year somewhere, and we'll see. But if not, that's sort of a crisis point. And also, if the rumors are correct, they could be going Frontier League soon. It could also become harder to sign guys because that's a weird situation, but that's going to be something we unpack on another episode, I'm sure.
Yeah. Just to keep the theme going here, Hall of Fame guy. I come back to Taylor Motter, but even that I don't really love.
Pablo Sandoval specifically as a pitcher.
Only as a pitcher.
7 1/3 scoreless. Nasty.
Ace stuff. Just real dog shit, you know. Yeah, I don't really have a
Can't
good
get punched by the Panda. That's tough.
You walk back, you're just like, I got struck out by a major leaguer.
Yeah, count it.
Yep. Okay, the real answer to the question I'm going to say is Nate Scantlin. And that's still like 300 games before we have a conversation about that.
Right. Yeah, that's all you can really think of. I agree.
That being said, though, he has hit just about everywhere he's gone. So, like,
yeah, I mean, he's on pace, sure.
Gary, what are we doing? Why was he allowed to walk from Gary?
I mean, insert that on your own.
Plus, he runs a lot too. That's a good ball player. But yeah, I don't have too much else on Staten Island. Like,
yeah, that's what I got. I'm ready to move on to the champs here. Wrap this up.
And it's the perfect way to end it here. In case you want, I already mentioned Staten Island's record. Never mind. York. Perfect way to end this. 80 and 45, 43 wins in the first half, 37 in the second half. Best roster, great playoff run. Rick Forney still got it.
Still got it, man.
It's
just a really well assembled roster. I mean,
a little bit of everything. Power hitters in there, and some good contact guys in there. I mean, I got like Brady Martin, great year. Ryan Smith, great year. McDermott, great year. Donovan Casey, phenomenal year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the lineup is complete. I mean, I've been talking about above and below average bats this whole time. Most days they only have one below average bat in their lineup, which is pretty crazy. Added really good pieces. Andrew Wheel was a good pickup. David Washington did David Washington stuff. But like Ryan Smith, McDermott, and by the way, McDermott is really good up the middle. Really good middle infield throughout the year. They were I don't know what their like numbers look like exactly, but they felt like the middle infield, one of those middle infields where they might get hit with errors more often because they can get to stuff more often. But I was impressed by what I saw there. But yeah, I mean, Martin, Casey, Wheel, Welker, McDermott, Ryan Smith all hit over 300. And then David Washington's the one in the middle there. And obviously David Washington's got other priorities other than batting average. Could be Cato kind of helps outcomes. Yeah, essentially. On the pitching side, I mean, John Olsen looked great in the rotation. Chris Valamont for whatever, it's like 7 starts he kept really getting picked up and back around. Go. Yeah. Came back for the playoff run, if I remember right. Tom Sotera did a little bit of everything they needed. Alex Riverde in the bullpen. Denny Bentley, Nelvin Correa, Aaron Holiday was nasty. Moises Lugo was nasty. Matt Turner was gross. Matt Turner covered a lot of innings for them too. 48 out of the pen. Denny Bentley threw 50 out of the pen. The one way to do it, man. It's a good roster. Could be bringing back a lot of these pieces too. We'll see.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like overall, I think it's just a very complete team. Some very, very solid guys. Some Triple Crown guys too. Like all in all, A+ stuff.
One of the younger pitching staffs in the league, so it'll be fun to see what they do with that.
Definitely. So, I don't have too much else to add. There's the Atlantic League Lookback, I guess, and that is episode 298 as a whole. So I guess we throw it to the plugs and then get the hell out of here.
Yeah, man. You can find my stuff at Aimball Nation, Instagram, YouTube. I'm getting back to doing the videos I started where I'm watching through the season. But I wanted to do my awards, postseason awards. So I'm still posting those, but luckily I got all that work done while I was dying from not feeling good for a couple weeks there. But that, and then if you're keeping on the podcast side of things, I'll probably post some longer form baseball stuff. But then also, as I said, finally got that true crime thing, which I can edit now that I don't sound completely different than I did when I first recorded. So I probably should have just re-recorded sounding like trash and people just thought that's who I am as a person, but it's okay. Other than that, yeah, that's what's going on the Indie Ball Nation side.
Yeah. Indie Ball Report everywhere except for Twitter, which is Indie Ball Pod. Also on Blue Sky now, so that's cool. You guys are trendy. Yeah, that's about all I got. And until next time, don't forget to play ball.